This is the story of Dexter, and you can't tell the story of Dexter without first starting with the story of Palex. Palex was a German Shepherd that I got in Montana in 2006, and he and I became best buddies. We went trucking for a long time. It was still during my trucking days that I got him, and then eventually we wound up down in Texas with kind of the financial housing market crash and everything. I decided to go back down there and go to school. And at the time, I was working for a crane company, and one morning I get up, this is November of 2008, I get up, I let Palex outside, I hop in the shower, and by the time I got out of the shower, somebody killed him in my front yard. And that was a terrible thing. And so I didn't go to work that day, and the next day I showed up, and everybody had heard what happened. And, it was Texas, so you could bring your dog to work. I mean, I'd done it quite a few times. I'd had him there with me a bunch, and everybody had loved him. And so when they found out, they were really upset. And one of the guys I worked with by the name of Ray Perales, his son was a breeder, and they asked me if I'd be interested in a puppy from the litter that his son just had. And I said, no, I think I'm going to hold off for now. I just don't know if I'm really ready for another dog yet. And I was pretty broke up over it because Palex was my buddy. Well, about a week later, they brought him down to show him to me. And one of the things that, old cowboys will tell you is if you're going to get a dog, don't get the one that comes running out to greet you. That's the alpha of the litter. That's the one that's going to be the most stubborn, hard-headed, hardest to train. Get one of the ones that stays kind of grouped with the rest of the puppies. That'll be an easier dog to deal with. Well, they come and they set these puppies down in the carrier and they open the cage and I kneel down and this one comes barreling out at me. The rest of them stayed put. This one come barreling out on me. He crawls up into my lap and just gets up in my face, 5 weeks old. And he's like, hi, you want to be my friend? Who are you? Hi, just little wagging tail and just as cute as could be. And I said, I'll take this one. And so I had to wait a week until he was 6 weeks old. And I went over to his son's house, picked him up and set him down in a basket on the passenger seat of the truck. And we just had a conversation about the way things were going to be. This is what it is. And we stuck to that, and we went with that. And Dexter, he became my best friend, and I just took him everywhere with me the first couple of months of his life. A lot of the times anybody be talking to me, I'd be there holding that dog in my hand, and he just got it figured out. Within about a week and a half, we had him potty trained. By 2 months, he was just a perfectly behaved dog. And Christmas, I wound up losing the job at the crane company. I got fired 2 days before Christmas because they'd been bought out by another company, and they were eliminating my position as the dispatcher in the office. And so I got let go, and I had to go find another job. And so ironically, on my way home from that job, just getting fired, the ball joint on my truck separated, and I had to be towed. And I just happened to ask the guy, a guy by the name of Bubba Ford, who come and got me, if the towing company was looking for any help, and it turns out they were, and I had a CDL and I had experience in big trucks, and so they hired me. And I started towing cars for a while and started taking Dexter with me, and that's where I first learned the towing business. And got kind of screwed over, didn't get paid for some work I'd done by the towing company, so I quit and I went into business competing against him. And Dexter was with me for the whole ride. We'd go out towing cars all night long, and he'd be out there riding with me. And one time he was about 6 or 7 months old. And just to show you what a good boy he was, I had to take a car to San Antonio. And San Antonio's not that far. It's 2.5 hours from where I was in Corpus, so it wasn't a bad deal. I went down to the dealership, picked up this car, was taking it to the dealership in San Antonio. Should have been just a quick afternoon job. Should have been over and done with right quick and in a hurry. I liked the longer ones because they paid you mileage there and back. And so that was a really good deal for me. And you didn't have to hook over and over and over again. So I'd left him at home because it was a really hot day outside. And if the truck broke down or something like that, I didn't want him to be stuck with me in the wrecker. And, just whatever reason, because he was a black dog and he was still a puppy. And you got to be careful with them when they're a puppy. And so I get up to San Antonio and I'm just leaving the dealership. I'd gone in, got my paperwork signed. I'd already dropped the car in the garage. And I was just walking back out to the truck. I stick the key in it to go fire it up, and it wouldn't fire. And I had a little scan tool with me, and sure enough, it was a PMD. And on those GM65 diesels, they were really bad about scratching PMDs. And I'd already used the spare that I had. I had another one ordered down in Corpus, but it hadn't showed up yet. And it's something I got used to doing on these trucks. It was just a common part for those to go bad. And so I called the O'Reillys up the street, and they didn't have one, but they could get me one the next morning, and that was the soonest they got it. So I had them go ahead and order it. And if I couldn't come get it, they'd just throw it in stock, and I started calling everywhere else, and I couldn't find one. That was the only opportunity to get one, so I wound up having to get a motel and spend the night. And my friends that I would have called to let Dexter out, normally they were out of town, and so he was stuck in the house. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna have such a mess. And it just bothered me all night that night, wondering how the dog was doing. You know, puppy, 6-7 months old, and I'm like, oh, that place is gonna be a mess. He's gonna be pooing and peeing in there. It's gonna be terrible. And I'm just like, oh, you know, this is not good. And I'm just, you know, thinking about this mess that I'm going to have to clean up when I get back. And next morning, part come in, guy got the truck fixed, and I scooted back down to Corpus as fast as I could. I was gone somewhere between 30 and 35 hours, something like that. And I pull into the house, and I hop out of the truck, and I go throw the key in the door. I unlock the place, and this little black flash comes scooting out into the lawn and starts pooing and peeing at the same time. And he's like, oh, my God, I'm so happy to see you. And I poked my head inside, and not a damn thing was wrong. I look around there, I'm like, you know, you're a really good boy. And so after that, you know, I was like, you know, we're going to go get some ice cream. So we went and got some ice cream, and it was just an awesome thing. I mean, it really showed me what a good dog he was, and I could always rely on him. He never chewed anything up. I mean, he was just always incredibly good. He figured it out right away, and he learned so fast. He was just so intelligent. He learned things at a rate that just astounded me. I could show him something once or twice and he'd understand it. And because of that, I could get Dexter to do anything that I needed. We just understood each other. And so we did the towing company thing for a few years and wound up closing down the towing company after I got hurt and had to spend some time convalescing. We went up to Houston, made a bunch of friends up there, and one of those friends was Charles. Hey, Dexter, who's that? Do you know him? Is that Charles? Is that Charles? Easy with the baseball bat tail, didn't you? and we just had a really good time there. And then after that, I went back to Montana for a bit, went to take a job up there that didn't work out, and I decided, you know, I'm going to go get a camper van, and I'm going to go out and see some of the country. I went out and I started doing photography, and then got back down to Corpus because I had to come back down for all the legal stuff from the car accident I'd been in a couple of years before. And while I was down there, I lost the engine in the camper van, and wound up getting all that stuff settled and trying to decide what I wanted to do next. And that's when I bought the red Kenworth and went out and started trucking again. And it was shortly thereafter I started Renegade Trucker. And so we got to go out and we got to have all of those adventures together. And it was really amazing. And then in 2016, we got the boat and started on the boat life. And in 2017, I got all the way out of the trucking business and went and did the boat thing. And then in 2020, I decided to go out and make some more money because things up here were really restricted with all the lockdowns and everything. And there were other places it wasn't so bad. So I was like, well, you know what, I'll go back to work for a while we're wanting to make some more money so I could do some things on the boat. And so I did that. And so went back to work, and through most of it, Dexter was feeling pretty good.
What is it? What is it? You see the puppy? Where's the puppy? What is it? You'll get him? Get him.
But I noticed he started having some problems. So October of 2020, on my birthday actually, I took him to a vet clinic down in Colorado. We just finished up this massive job out in Minnesota, between Minnesota, South Dakota, moved a bunch of wind towers. We mobbed in like 32 wind towers. It's a crazy huge job. Lots of responsibility. I mean, insane job. One of the hardest ones I've ever been on. But we got through it, and I was one of the last guys to leave. And get out there, and the first thing I had to attend to was getting Dexter to that vet. And so we take him down there, and of course I couldn't go in with him. It was COVID, so I had to hand the leash through the door to the lady, and they take him inside, and he's all freaked out. And he was a very uncooperative patient. He did not like being taken into the veterinary clinic without me. And the vet looked him over for a little bit, and they had a lot of problems with him growling and snarling and not wanting to be touched. And you know, he did not like the vet ever, and usually I had to be there with him to calm him down. And well, I couldn't be in there because of COVID, and so they kind of just hoofed him back out the door, and then they're talking to me through the window, and I had a hard time understanding what they're saying. Everybody's wearing a face mask. I'm partially deaf. I read lips a lot of the time when I'm having difficulty understanding someone. And what I got from the conversation, though, was he's got cancer. He doesn't have long left. Enjoy the time you have. It's probably only going to be a few months. And that was really tough. And I worked a few months more and was trying to decide what to do, seeing how he was going to do.
Hey, Dexter, you know who that is? Who is that?
Big turkey.
And finally, he just got to be in too rough a shape, and I started looking at doing something else for a little bit, and that deal didn't work out. And finally, we came back here to the boat. And we got back out to the boat, and he was pretty good for a long time. Last summer, we got to go on a lot of walks, and you know, we'd go down to this beach all the time. We'd walk over here, and he got to smell all the things, and he absolutely loved it.
Dexter! Dex, what are you doing? Huh? What are you doing? Oh, you got the zoomies today, huh? You got the zoomies? Do you want to, Dexter? Should we go for a walk? Huh? You want to go for a walk? No, come here. Come here. Come here. What are you doing?
And so he made it all the way through the winter, and the stairs were really hard for him. You know, he was doing all right on them for a long time. And then it got real cold. And when it got real cold, he really started suffering.
You go out, let's go. What are you doing? What are you doing? And you see it snowed quite a bit more out here since last night, like on the truck here. I think I'll knock some of this off of here. I mean, it's about, oh, that's a pretty good amount of snow. About 3 inches deep. All right, you got her, buddy. You got her. There you go. You got her. You got her. You can do it. Don't you quit on me, buddy. Go. Come on, Dexter. Come on. Come on.
And then, up until a couple of weeks ago, I started noticing that Dexter was having a really hard time walking. He's having difficulty standing up. He couldn't get up and down the stairs on his own anymore. At first, I was having to assist him, and then for the last couple of weeks, I was having to carry him. And I knew the time was getting close, and I started making arrangements, started figuring out what we were going to do, and, you know, the question will beat you up. When is the time right? You know, when's it the right time? You know, and I started wondering, is he going to go on his own? Am I going to have to do it? How are we going to handle it? And I was fortunate enough to find a mobile vet who specializes in this, who lives in the area here, and she came over, and we had a discussion about it, and got a bit of a plan together, and just decided to wait and see how he did, because, you know, we'd had a couple of cold snaps where he'd been hurting real bad, and then got to feeling better. I thought I was going to have to do it then, and then he came back around, and everything was fine. And I was really hoping that he'd get through this summer. You know, we're getting ready to launch the boat again here and go do more sailing. And I thought maybe, you know, we can be ready and we can go out and enjoy the summer together. And maybe this fall it'll be time, and maybe he can get one last good summer. Well, a few days ago, Dexter became no longer able to stand. And I got him out, got him to go to the bathroom. I had to hold him up to do it. We got him back up on the boat. That's when I did the live stream and let everybody say goodbye to him. And I called the vet, and I was like, hey, we're going to have to do this. And she's like, well, I'm out of the area today. I'll be back up there tomorrow. Let's see how he does tonight. And that started one of the longest nights of my life. I had to, I wound up staying with him pretty much the whole night. And he was constantly in pain. I mean, he just holed himself up in the corner on the lounge on the boat, and he just refused to move. He just would not let you touch him, wouldn't let you move him. I wanted to put a blanket underneath him. He wouldn't let me. And so anytime I tried to move him, he just started growling and snarling and snapping, and he was scared. And he was in a really rough spot, and we stayed up all night. And finally, the next morning, I knew she was going to be over there about 10:30. And it was getting to be about 8 in the morning. I got up, I went over to use the restroom, and got some caffeine in me because I desperately needed it. It had been a really long night. I'd slept, you know, about 45 minutes at one point, and about half an hour at another, and he woke me up yelping and whining, and I mean, he was in a bad way. And I gave him lots of comfort that night. I gave him lots of love, and, you know, lots of pats, and he refused to eat that night. I mean, I cut up a steak for him. He refused to eat that. He wouldn't eat any cheese, and I knew he was in a really bad way at that point. I knew that this was the time. And finally, after I got back from going over and using the restroom and grabbing some caffeine, I come back and start trying to move him, and he just flat out refused. And finally, I got a little upset with him, and I said, hey, you fuzzy asshole, I'm trying to help you here. You know, let me help you. And he changed. He was like, oh, okay, we'll do this. And he knew. He knew. And so with that, we got him down the stairs. I got him made up on the bed on the truck, and I took him for a last drive through the boatyard. He got to stick his nose up in the air and smell all the things. And went over and parked the truck at the beach because it was his favorite spot out here, and he loved that. And we got parked there, and I got backed in so he could see the water, and I just started spending time with him and giving him lots of love, and spent that last about an hour and a half of his life there. And the vet showed up, we did our thing, and that was that.
What's that? Huh? What was that? What's that puppy doing, huh?
Well, that's that. Happy trails, buddy dog. I miss you. Get a German Shepherd, they said. It'll be fun, they said. Ah, you're shedding so much. Ah.